Hello everyone, my name is Anas Mohammed and I am a freelancer at Cloud Catalyst Academy. At Cloud Catalyst Academy, we provide services like infrastructure management, where we provide the entire infrastructure over the cloud, and we actually architect the infrastructure and we give it to our clients. The second thing is we also do the data migration and we are also into PCI DSS compliance framework. But in today's lecture, I'm actually going to describe about how Cloud Catalyst eventually works. Okay, so this is the architecture that we would actually be giving our clients. But before going into that, let's move on to something called a client server architecture. Okay, so what is a client server architecture? As we have actually discussed earlier, the client server architecture, client is something that asks for a resource, and a server is something that actually responds to the resource. And now moving on, here's the PPT for it. So we've got two-tier architecture wherein a client, it can be a mobile phone or a laptop, would be actually asking for a resource and the server would actually respond to the resource. But here you can see that the database as well as the application are on one server and there might be issues related to the space or the storage. And then you need the space for the operating system as well. So for that, to overcome this problem, we have actually created something called a three-tier architecture. So in 3T architecture, you've got the client, like the web browser, which actually would be going into the application layer and then the database layer. So this is a 3T architecture where we have separated the application layer and the database layer. But again, here the problem was that the application layer was actually, directly open to the public. And somebody who could eventually get inside our servers could actually get our application code. So to overcome this problem, we created something called an NT architecture, where we have got the web server. The web server does not eventually have our code because it is in the business logic layer, which is the application side. So this is actually upload like open to the public. So the client request would go to the web server. The web server would actually analyze the request and send it to the application layer, and then the application layer would actually send it to the databases. And from that, the database, the request would actually come back all the way to the client. So this is how the architecture that we have actually designed in the Cloud Catalyst Academy. Now, moving on, let's see how things work at our organizations. So, this is a small diagram that I've actually created for Cloud Catalyst Academy and the infrastructure service that we are providing. So, here, let's say on the browser, you type Cloud Catalyst Academy. So, the browser would require two things, which is the host name and the IP address. So it would actually eventually go to the IP address and then which is the ISP. ISP is nothing but the internet service provider that we've got. Like I'm using like Bell services, so the ISP would be from like the Bell company. So the ISP would actually send this request going into the application where I have got the Cloud Catalyst Academy here. So my Cloud Catalyst Academy is in the AWS cloud. Okay, now this is the entire AWS cloud that we have got. And here I've created a virtual private cloud so that our environment is secure. So in Cloud Catalyst Academy, we provide a secure environment, and here we've got public subnets as well as the private subnets. So here what we do, the request will eventually go here, but before it actually goes into the web server, we've got something called a firewall. This is actually a service that's being provided by the AWS to ensure the safety of the environment. The firewall will actually ask for the resources, ask for like the IP addresses and the protocols and which application you're going to. So it's going to Cloud Catalyst Academy. So the Cloud Catalyst Academy request would actually pass the firewall after the verification is done. So verifies the IP addresses and the port numbers and then send it to the web server. The web server is actually a server that's responsible for redirecting the traffic to the application server to and from the application server. So it would redirect the traffic to the application server. Here we have got the auto scaling group, and the auto scaling group which actually is responsible for scaling the entire architecture. So if we got a number of requests that are really high, the auto scaling group would increase the number of application servers and then actually go to the database servers as well. And here we have got the auto scaling group again. So this actually helps to ensure that the application is highly scalable. So if you've got a lot of requests going in, the auto scaling group would eventually have a launch configuration. In that launch configuration, we would actually ensure that the entire data is set up in a way that if the CPU utilization, let's say, goes more than 70%, it would automatically create a extra application server. So this is how it works. So the request would go from web server to application server and the database server. And after fetching the data, it would go back again to the application server and the web server, and we would get the Cloud Catalyst Academy in the client's browser. So this is the entire architecture that we are actually creating at Cloud Catalyst Academy and providing to our clients. Apart from that, we are also doing the PCI DSS compliance to ensure that this framework was actually compliant with the regulations. And we would also help in creating the infrastructure in a way we would also help in migration of the databases. But for now, this is the entire infrastructure we are actually providing. Hope you like the lecture. If you've got any queries, please reach out to cloudcatalystacademy.com, and I hope you like the video.